you need to work out. So we're going to do one post a week on the gym wear. We're going to do one post a week on workouts. We're going to do one post a week on post-workout foods, or what I've had in a day, because that's your inside scoop. That's your personality, because you're showing what you've eaten in a day. You don't have to do that. It's not really anything to do with business, but people are getting the inside scoop and the personality. And then within that, you're showing your gym wear, you're showing your gym supplements, whatever it is, and people are going, so where did you get those leggings from? Where did you get those supplements from? And it's about organically adding your products into it.
I like to call my unlimited content matrix, and essentially you break your business down into 4 pillars, right? You're welcome. Before I even start, you break your business down into 4 pillars. You say, okay, let's say for example, it's Crunches by Susie. She really likes, fashion, right? She really likes hair. And there's another 2. So you break down hair and fashion and you get their keywords. So you say, okay, fashion, we have models, we have material, we have this, that, and the other. And then for each of those keywords, you'd break that down into the who, what, when, where, how, and why.
What's sustainable happens quickly. Nothing. Like, very few of you can show me an example of something that is sustainable, that is built quickly. I look at a plant. You look at a tree. Look, the biggest tree in the forest here, how long has it been there for? Thousands of years. It's not coincidence. You look at buildings. How long did they build a building? How long does it stay standing for?
Yeah.
Look at a baby. If a baby is born too soon, it's at risk of dying. Everything in life, there's not one thing in life here that can happen quickly and is sustainable. So when I tell you the post here for the next 6 months here, that's me using the laws of life and nature and what we see around us to understand that nothing in life that is built quickly is sustainable.
I love the psychology of it. And I think sometimes with digital marketing, we forget that it's the same thing. It's just using different platforms. And the speed in which the digital platforms allow us to market to our audience compared to traditional offline is just incomparable. It's just crazy fast. And also the accessibility of how many people we can reach. And so it can be quite overwhelming when we think about the bigger picture of digital marketing. But really, when it comes down to it, it's about the psychology that we've always known. And that goes right back to, hey, I've got some of these carrots. I've noticed that you haven't got any carrots. What about these? Should we swap some carrots for some of your potatoes? So it's about the psychology of somebody wanting or needing something and then somebody else being able to provide.
We call it edutainment. So it's education and entertainment.
Yeah.
And don't be scared by the entertainment word, because entertainment is broad. Anyone can find anything interesting. It doesn't need to be humorous or anything like that.
Yeah.
Teach us about this, and you can do that with a hook. So one tip for video content is you need to capture someone's attention in the first 3 to 5 seconds. You need a hook, and that hook it needs to draw in that person. So on TikTok, you can write a cover title on your video.
Yeah.
If your service is beneficial in some way, a hook on that cover title could be, this is what really saves me time when I'm ...
Yeah.
That's a hook, because now I want to know what saves you time.
Yeah.
So this is where services can really play up to, how is this beneficial for you? Why should you be parting money? How can this change my routine in the best way possible? So that is everything that they need to be pushing.
No, you didn't let the video finish. You need to let the video finish. People need to get the gist of the juice and the gems that we're bringing to them. Good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon, actually. It's 12:03. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time you're watching from or re-watching this from. Welcome to another episode, if you want to call it, of UKBF Talks, the webinar where I speak to business experts about different areas of business to help you and I excel in our business journey. In today's episode, in today's webinar, we're going to be focusing on all things email marketing. Now, email marketing is something that a lot of people think, oh, it's as simple as pinging an email out, see what happens. But let me tell you, especially with some of the things and processes that we've got here at UKBF, it's a lot more than that. And I've got a guy here today who's got, I hope he does. I've got a guy here who's got a lot of gems and a lot of keys to help us take our email journey to another level. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Philip Story. Now, Philip, you don't need to give me a check. You don't need to pay me anything whilst we're live. But make sure that you've got my check ready, because that was quite a good intro to what
that was good.
What you do. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well, thank you, Jacob. Thanks for that. That was an amazing intro. Not even sure I need to add to that, to be honest. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. You can just literally just log off and go now. That's it. So if you've got comments, questions about email marketing, let us know your pain points. Let us know what you're struggling with. Let us know what you want to get more insight into. And I'll be sure to ask Philip whilst we've got him here. So without further ado, before we go into any questions, I always like to ask the guest who they are, to make sure that you're not an alien. So, Philip, who the heck are you, and why should we listen to you today?
I'm the founder of Enchant Agency. I've worked in the email space for 20 years, and I'm really excited to speak to everyone here today about email. I think it's a massively undervalued channel. Most brands don't know where to start with it. I think it's probably not unfair to say that it's the most complicated email channel and most complicated marketing channel out there. I think this is one of the reasons why, brands really struggle to get it right. So I've worked in the space for 20 years across all different sectors and industries, different geographies. I've seen most of it. I still get the occasional surprise, but I've been literally dedicating my entire career to email marketing. And hopefully from the time that we spend together today, you'll be able to come away with some ideas about how you might adapt your email marketing, or perhaps for you, it's just about getting started. And if that's the case, then let's use this session to try and help you do that. So as Jacob was saying, all the questions are welcomed, and I'm here to try and help you and give you the best of me for this time, and help you improve your email marketing from here on.
There we go. So simple question to begin with. What is email marketing?
Email marketing. I mean, it's actually interesting because I think especially with the amount of brands that are sending sort of sales messages now, this question actually does come up quite a lot. It sounds simple, but I think email marketing is any marketing effort that you're making using email, that might be either an automated campaign, or it might be something that you're choosing to send to your subscribers or a particular segment that you have. So, and generally email marketing should have an objective, right? So you should be thinking about, what am I trying to do with the audience that I'm engaging? Am I trying to get them to purchase something else? Am I trying to get them to come back if they haven't been opening emails and so on? I think, it is the most powerful marketing channel. You look at the stats from the Direct Marketing or the Data and Marketing Association, every year, £40 return for every pound invested. So, it's not an insignificant channel, massively overlooked. I think it's sat in the, in the sort of the shadows of social media for many, many years. But this year, I think we've really seen, we've all been kind of talking about 2023 as being the year of email. It's really back on the scene. It's getting the lion's share of new budgets and attention in the boardroom as well. So email marketing is massively effective. It's here to stay. And I think, it should, if you're not doing it already in your organization, and you're not doing, or don't really think you're doing a great job, or you're not really, putting too much time and effort into it, then you're definitely missing out. And hopefully today you'll come away thinking, actually, I'm gonna be going for it with the emails. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. We've already got some questions coming in, which is really good. Keep your questions coming in. I'll make sure to get your questions across, but I'm the guy. Let me get my questions in first. You just said that it's something that seems to be have been forgotten or put on the back burner because People are putting a bit more time into social media. People are experimenting and trying out other digital marketing aspects. Why do you think email is such an underappreciated commodity when it comes to taking people to see a business's product, or when it comes to re-engaging somebody back into seeing your product? Why is email so underrated in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think firstly, it's cheap, right? It is probably, apart from organic social, you're spending time on it. To distribute emails, it's not expensive. Platforms have a low barrier to entry in terms of cost. And I think that if you go all the way back to when email started, it's really born out of direct mail coming online. And it wasn't a great way for email to begin its life, if you like, as a marketing channel, because people just started doing what they would do with direct mail, which is sending to as many people as possible. And early in my career, that was all anyone wanted to talk about, was how many people can we send the email to? Like, let's send it to the entire database. And it was just like, that was like the first sort of 8 to 10 years of my career. I was trying to convince marketing directors, that's a bad idea and we should do segmentation. But we'll come on to segmentation later. I think even when you do email badly, as long as you actually put the effort into it in terms of actually doing something, you will still get really good returns. So that Data and Marketing Association stat of £40 or so out of every pound spent, if you're doing it badly, you are likely to be effective. And that isn't necessarily a good thing for email as a channel. I also think like the other reason, Jacob, is just like, it's not perceived to be a cool channel, right? There's other things that are potentially more playful and interesting, where you also get more feedback. Like, so I think email is a conversation channel, right? I think it is the first social network, right?
Yeah.
But we don't get enough evidence in the replies, right, from subscribers to actually feel like there's a dialogue going on. So it can feel a little bit quiet. And I think sometimes that means, like, even if you're getting sales or whatever, you're getting clicks, whatever is your goal is, I do think it affects you. I do think it kind of means that marketers shift their attention to other channels and sort of leave email to the side. So I think there are a few forces in play that make it quite difficult for it to get the attention it needs and deserves.
Yeah. No, that's a really comprehensive way to put it. I guess, you know what, let me ask the audience questions so they don't feel left out. So I've got a question here that says, how do you undertake email marketing to promote professional services to other businesses?
Yeah, okay, cool. So you're a professional services organization and you want to sell B2B, or you want to promote your services. I think firstly, you've got to create kind of a reason for people to want to hear from you with email. So there's a difference between sort of sales emails. And I think this is Jacob's original question around what is email marketing. I don't think email marketing is the sales emails. I do think if you're a professional services organization, you should be doing some prospecting, but we will kind of leave that to one side for the minute. I think from an email marketing perspective, you should be attracting people into different places maybe on your website where you can actually grow a list of subscribers, and perhaps you are speaking at different events and things like that, and you want to sell to these professional services organizations. You've got to kind of give them a reason to want to give you their email address. So like the give get. So you can get their email address if you give them something of value, whether that's a download, a guide to something. And I think it's about taking people on a journey. So yeah, you can have like a regular, like weekly or monthly newsletter, or whatever it might be. The key thing with every communication, it needs to be people first. It needs to be all about meeting their needs and desires and giving them value. And that's how they're going to fall in love with your professional services organization. That's how they're going to think, actually, I want to work with these guys. If you're trying to sell, or you're just treating them the same as every other subscriber that you've got, and you're maybe sending them way too many emails, or you're only sending an email once every month or two, you've got to find the balance in there and create value for people in the emails that you send. So you've probably already got the answers in your organization. What do people really want? what do people really love to hear from you about? Like, what are the things that you're really good at? There's always a win-win. Like, so what you're trying to sell is highly likely to be like really well aligned with what they actually really, really want. But if you're obsessive about putting people's needs and desires first, I think, and making sure they're getting that in their inbox rather than just something that you're trying to sell, that's how you're going to nurture them. And the best thing actually is like less is more. Like, so even if it's one topic every time you send an email, but it's a really nice piece of content and it's something that is going to be valuable to the people that you're sending it to, that's better than sitting there thinking, oh, I really want to do an email campaign, but I can't think of like 5 things. You don't need 5 things. You've got to start with what you've got and build it up from there. So I think that's probably that. Yeah, it's a broad answer, some ideas in there, but I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah, like I'm no Philip Story. I'm no email whiz. But if you just think about it, like it's normal psychology. If you know that you've got an interested audience already there, as Philip is saying, we can't be too spammy. We can't be too push, sales. There needs to be give and take when it comes to value. Because if I'm interested in a particular subject and I'm getting information which is benefiting me, I'm actually going to look forward to receiving those emails. I'm like, one a week's not enough. Maybe twice a week's what I need, because the information I'm getting from them is actually benefiting me. So I feel like if businesses, especially service providers, provided insight, value, and knowledge to their audience, their consumer, their customer base, about that sector, about that, about something to do with the area which is actually going to benefit them, why wouldn't they want to? Number one, they're not going to unsubscribe from you. Number two, they might potentially even refer you what your offering is, what your business is, to somebody else because you're giving them insight. So it's basically human psychology. Like, give them give them answers and solutions to their pain points, and they're going to keep wanting more. So
100%.
I'm no email whiz.
I think like what you're just saying there about frequency is something that's worth touching on as well. Like I do want to be clear about this. Like, if you're sending emails to subscribers once a month, is probably, like, it's a really broad statement, but once a month, like, is probably going to look like a failure. Your open rates are probably going to go into decline, click rates, conversions, everything. And if you ask your subscribers how often they want to hear from you, they'll probably say, oh, like once a month, or they don't really know what they actually want. You have to read between the lines and look at their behavior, and kind of, if you're sending something out once a week, that's probably a good starting point. If that feels unachievable, maybe start fortnightly. But what you can do is use automation to look at like people that are clicking and actually engaging regularly, and actually take them on a separate journey. So in between like the newsletters that you're sending, you can actually enroll people into like a series of automated emails that might be a little bit more, let's say, middle of the funnel, where you might start to introduce a little bit of product here and there and talk a little bit more about things that might nurture the subscriber along, so that they're becoming a little bit more educated around actually what it is that you're offering. And that way you've kind of got a really nice balance, and you're using the automation to automatically pick up on like some subscribers that are actually, they are opening and clicking quite a bit. Instead of you having to think, okay, let's prepare another campaign for them, you can have a pre-built journey, automated journey that they can then just automatically enroll in. Say if they've opened and clicked on the last 3 campaigns, they automatically get a little bit more. So there are easy ways to do this as well with all the tools out there. Like, it doesn't need to be like kind of some enterprise platform. You can do some of this stuff even in sort of platforms like MailChimp and Klaviyo, so that cost very little to get started with. So it's not it's not beyond like possibility. Some of this stuff that we're just starting to get into in terms of the detail is very easily achieved with, just the basic platforms out there. So yeah,
no, that's good. So when it comes to email marketing, what are the key elements of a successful email marketing campaign?
Yeah, I think we've covered. So I think kind of, creating value is the most important thing. And we've already obviously talked about that. I think One value that I like to bring into play is just treating people, when you think about strategy, treating people like they're a friend, right? Treat them with respect. Don't disregard the fact that they've given you their email address. Don't assume that they still want to hear from you if they haven't opened and clicked for like a year. You kind of probably need to ask those contacts, do you still want to be subscribed? I think, your targeting is really important in your segmentation. So thinking a bit further beyond that, if you know that you've got, I don't know, say different prospects that might be in the travel industry, the retail space, they might be more B2B, giving them content that's a little bit more relevant to their industry is definitely going to help. And I think that is a key element. Just thinking about your segmentation and your personalization of content, it's definitely going to help you build that relationship with people in the inbox. I think creative, so content and thinking about how what your email templates are going to look like, not using pre-built templates that are sat inside the email platform that you purchase or that you're going to use. Make sure you design and build your own templates. That's definitely really important. And that way you can decide how things render differently, say on desktop and mobile. That's really, really key. I think beyond that, growing your list, and this is the key thing to any email strategy. And I say this time and time again, we've got some massive brands, global brands that we get to work with, and it's really exciting. But it doesn't matter how big the budget is and how exciting the strategy is and how cool the emails are. If you're not growing your list, your email marketing program is going to fail in the near future. It will start to really creak. So list growth, being obsessive about list growth, not just on your website, but in all channels where you're present, trying to meet people, get their email address with permission, and actually, making sure that you're constantly growing that database. That is the most important thing.
No, I think that the last point that you just touched on is extremely important, because if I'm a business owner, let's say I shoot, I do wedding videography or wedding photography. I may meet somebody in January who are thinking to get married in November, December, but they're not starting to plan in January. They're probably starting to plan in the summertime to get married in the winter. But if I took their email in January and every week, as Philip has said, or every 2 weeks, I am always giving them value, showing my email list the best pictures I've done. Oh, have you considered this? Have you considered that? Oh, here's what you could do with da 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 da. By the time they get to the summertime, because I've been front of mind with them since January, I may not be their first number one target, but I will be potentially a consideration because I've been active. I've engaged them with value. I've engaged them with something. I've engaged their pain points, which I already know, with some solutions which my emails have been bringing, right? So they're like, oh, we're not gonna pick this guy straight away, but you know what? Let's give this guy a call. Let's see what else he's going on. We spoke to you in January, but we've seen that what you've got going on is really, really cool. Are you free? What can you do? That sort of thing. So building your email list, getting emails into your funnel somehow, even if you have to ask somebody after you speak to them in the conversation, can I have your email? If they say no, they say no. I'm sure somebody will say yes, especially if you're giving them value, right? You can't just ask somebody without giving them value or offering them something that will benefit them. It's all about the value. But I 100% agree with that point that you just gave there, Philip. My next question is, how can you effectively, touching on the segmentation, how can you effectively build and segment your email list for better targeting? So you touched there about treating people like friends, right? Treating your list as friends. Somebody may not want to hear from you because they've not opened your email for a year. So what's the best way to segment your list and to target?
Yeah, I think this is the one area of email marketing that I'd say small brands all the way up to the biggest brands in the world really struggle to understand. It's a real problem. I think the best place to start with segmentation for email is looking at behavior. So you could ask people, right, before I come on to behavior, you could ask people, okay, like, what are you interested in? But we've already talked about that today. People will tell you what they think, but with the greatest respect to everybody on this planet, we don't actually always know what we really want. And the biggest problem that marketers, or mistake that marketers make with asking people what they're interested in, is they ask the question once, they might keep that, those answers in a preference center and store that against each contact's profile as a property, right? And be able to use that to segment. But people's interests and needs and wants change all the time. I think the key to segmentation is really thinking about behavior and what people are actually doing. So if you're sending out an email, say it's got 3 different pieces of content in there, right? And they're on different topics, looking at actually what are people engaging with, rather than what did they say once upon a time that they actually are interested in, listening to them and starting to build a bit of a picture. So you can easily look at, okay, in the last 10 emails that I've sent Jacob as a company, he seems to mostly click on this type of content. So using that, you could then either start to adapt the content that we are showing those particular contacts, or you could start to actually thinking about what we've already covered a little bit around automation, is actually would it be better to enroll Jacob into an automated journey that nurtures him around that specific kind of theme or content topic, right? And I think that is the way to keep the conversation going. And I've always believed that email is, I sort of talked about it being the first social network. Think like it's a conversation channel. It's a chance to have a dialogue. And that's your way of listening, right? You're looking at what people are actually engaging with. You're responding relevantly, right? So whether that's you're changing up the content by segmenting or personalizing the content based on people's interests, or you're even actually taking people on a different journey. And that might mean that you just take them out of like the regular newsletters for a while, and take them on a bit more of an automated journey around that one specific piece content area until they either become a customer and sort of talk to you about maybe buying that from your business, or they kind of maybe their engagement slows down, and then you might need to open the conversation up a bit more broadly again and start to send them more generic sort of regular weekly fortnightly newsletters. So I think that's the key thing, listening to what people are saying, right? Because there's always a conversation going on, just that most marketers don't really have the time or knowledge to know what to look at in terms of engagement, what's going on. Are people kind of clicking? Are they not? What are they clicking on? And then following up relevantly. I think that's the best way.
Yeah. Speaking from the perspective of somebody who may have bought something, or let's say I sell candles, and I sell candles around, from most of my sales are from, let's say, autumn to winter, because it's a Christmas period. It's more quiet from January to the summertime. Oh no, from January to the whole of January is quiet. But around Valentine's Day, because I sell candles, it's a bit more popular. But from Valentine's Day up until autumn again, it's just like, why am I even in business, right? Because obviously my business fluctuates depending on the different festivals and events happening throughout the calendar. Now, I've built up an email list of people who have bought from my website. What could I be doing, right, within the periods where I'm not selling a lot, or there's people there that have bought something, but they may be interested in other stuff? What could I be doing throughout the year, or throughout the gaps where things are quiet for my business? Not to really, oh, buy now, I've got 50% off, 70% off. But what else could I be doing to kind of take my friends, these people that bought from me, on a journey, as you've been talking about?
Yeah, I think that is a problem that a lot of companies face, like seasonal sales, right? And not really knowing what to do, but when it goes quiet, right? And what most brands do is they just don't do anything, and that's definitely not the right answer. I think that in most organizations, when it is quiet, there are people, senior people in the business, who are breathing down our necks, right? Like saying we need sales, and we're all getting pushed. And this is when sometimes email gets over, brands can over kind of rely on the fact that we've got a big database that we've spent years building, and we're going to kind of take them for granted by overselling to them and trying to push it. And that creates a big problem if you go down that route, because what happens is when you actually are back into a season where you are selling a lot, your email subscribers are going to be kind of checked out, right? Because they're going to be a bit fatigued from all the stuff you've been sending them when they're not interested. But the other answer is you don't stop emailing them. So this is the key time to start to build a relationship with your subscribers that is more than what you sell. And what I mean by that is not necessarily talking to them about, I don't know, like stuff that's totally irrelevant. But you've got to find, and this is where I think just content marketing in general really kind of plays well with email. It's like thinking about how you can build a relationship with them that is beyond the product. And that gives them a reason to come back and open and click. And fine, it might not mean that you've suddenly got people on the site all of the time buying a ton of candles or whatever you're selling. But it means that they're still in, right? They're still interested. They're close by. You're keeping them close by. You're working hard through those kind of quiet times in the year to make sure that they stay engaged and that you haven't forgotten about them. The other answer as well, Jacob, is like I think like this is where the automation plays out so well, because if they are coming on the site and they're looking at products or different categories, like you can be sending automated emails to these contacts, right? Your subscribers that are actually looking at maybe a particular category of candle. They might be looking at specific products. They might actually be putting them in their carts. You can nurture them. Those people that are doing that, you can actually send them automated campaigns and make sure that you're pushing them through the sales cycle with email marketing. But you're not trying to do that with everybody. And sometimes you just sort of need to think, okay, these quiet seasonal periods are for building that relationship and maintaining it and nurturing people. And of course, there are loads of other things you can do, like flash sales and things like that. If you've really got to get on with things, email is a great way of having like a subscriber only sale, or some sort of offer that you can give to email subscribers that only they get. That's really nice. Just depends on your business goals, but there's a few ideas there, I think, in terms of how you can think about email when it is quiet.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That's really good. I've got a question here. For a startup B2B services business, how much and what types of market research is needed before launching a successful email marketing campaign?
Okay, yeah, that's quite a difficult question to answer. I suppose the easiest way to answer it is I probably haven't experienced or ever seen a B2B, is it marketing services? What was the exact question, Jacob? A B2B?
So a B2B services business. So So just to give an example, it could be B2B services. Somebody that, let's say, cleans windows. So they clean windows for business owners, skyscrapers, shops. Yeah, that's the service that they offer for businesses. So if we think about like use that as some sort of example.
I don't think, I mean, I've never seen a brand actually sort of conduct market research right at the beginning, specifically around sort of email. I think this is the thing, like there's so many reasons not to get started with email. Like I've met brands who've been like literally well established for over a decade, who have been waiting to sort of get on with email marketing for one reason or another, and they still haven't started. And when they do, they suddenly regret the last sort of 10 years of just not doing anything. I don't think there's any reason to wait for market research unless it's absolutely pivotal. You're trying to prove something bigger than like whether email will be effective for your business. I think in the B2B space, like email is an essential part of your marketing mix, definitely anyway. So I think you've just got to get going with it. And just, there'll always be a reason to do it tomorrow, but start today with something small and you won't regret it. In like 3 months, you'll see the value that it creates for your company. So I think, market research is always interesting and useful, and it might help you do things better. But, most startups don't have time for that, to wait. They need to get on with things much, much quicker. So I think that's the key. Just get started, and that can always be brought in later on, but definitely don't be waiting for that to get started with email.
Yeah, and I guess you're always going to be learning as you go along, right? Even the likes of, if you look at the implementation of AI right now, how many businesses are now learning? They've probably got 50 years of history, 50 years of sales behind them. They've built up the biggest list, but now this thing called AI, especially the likes of ChatGPT, Bard, how it's now helping to create content, create copy, all these things that, let's say, sites like Google don't even like when you use AI to help you to do stuff. People are always learning, people are always adapting. So research is constantly being done. So as Philip said, literally just start and you will literally learn to walk. Then eventually you will learn to crawl. I was going to say walk, then crawl, but walk, then jog, then run, then take a stop to assess how things have gone, and then you carry on again. So literally just literally go for it. My next question: what are some of the best practices for creating attention? What are some of the best practices for creating attention-grabbing email subject lines?
Okay. Well, interestingly, Jacob, speaking of creating great subject lines, AI is so good for this. We use it in Chant, like all of our clients are using it. I think if you've got subject lines are often the hardest thing to come up with, right? You've created a great campaign and it's and it always gets left till the end. And if you're doing that and you're already doing a lot of email marketing, you're not alone, but I definitely think planning ahead with subject lines can be helpful. It's definitely a good idea, at least. So use AI. Like ChatGPT will, just prompt it well. Be like, okay, we've got these 3 subject lines, or these are my last 10 subject lines. I've got a campaign about this, and just keep pushing it. And you'll never probably be able to take a subject line straight out of ChatGPT and put it into a campaign, but it's going to give you enough information to be able to go, right, okay, I can change this very slightly and I've got a great subject line. I think one key thing about subject lines that brands often overlook is just sort of being really clear, right? So it doesn't need to be anything more than about what the email is about, right? So it's just being really honest, right? That's your commitment, that you're not going to be cryptic and sort of mess your subscribers around and fool them into opening an email. A lot of brands try this and do it, and they get kind of hoodwinked by the fact that actually the open rate was really high. But what they don't actually analyze is all the other metrics like conversion rate and clicks and so on. And then they sort of get caught up in something that they didn't realize, which is actually, a mistake, right? So just being really honest, clear, don't be cryptic, and think, one key thing is like stacking the message, right? So if you've got 3 kind of parts to your message and your subject line, just split testing, moving those things around, really easy to do. Like, okay, or just switch the 2 bits around, like the 2 messages. One, I'm going to lead with one and end with one. I'm going to try short subject lines versus maybe longer subject lines. I'm going to try subject lines with an emoji versus not having an emoji. Try new things. You've got to be kind of ruthlessly inquisitive about subject lines, because there are a lot of email specialists that will say that open rates don't matter, but they do matter, because it's the top of the funnel. It's the first indication we can see of interest. And we know that if we get more people opening emails, we've got a bigger chance of driving more clicks, more conversions. And that's the whole purpose of email marketing. So I would be obsessive about subject lines, getting people to open, and try all of those things. And, you could spend a year testing with just the stuff I've just talked about, and you won't run out of ideas, even if you're sending campaigns every day. So yeah, there's lots to be said about subject lines. Really, really important, and I hope those things help you. Yeah, because they're going to be like, they're very tactical, but don't overlook them just because they're like, oh, is that really going to make a difference? And like when you're testing subject lines, actually, Jacob, I was going to say, like, for everyone here who's thinking, oh, I haven't got time for that, or when I test, actually, I don't even really see much of a difference. That's when you've just got to dig in and keep going, because you will find, actually, this works for me. This particular style of subject line works for your business, and one size doesn't fit all here. So what works for maybe one, like, I don't know, like shoe brand will probably not work for like one of their competitors. So yeah, you've just got to find your own best practice with these, with all things email marketing, but particularly with subject lines.
Yeah, no, that's really comprehensive, and I like the fact that you said that utilize. After I just almost slammed AI, you like use AI to help you with that. But yeah, as you said, prompt it well, because if you prompt it well, you may not necessarily use it, but then it just gives you an idea. Because just like you said, I can just picture somebody who's spent all this time crazy, amazing email campaign, but then they're struggling to think about the few words to put at the start that people are going to see first. So no, that's a really, really good point. Can you share some tips for designing visually appealing and mobile friendly email templates?
Yeah, sure. So I think this is, creative. Once somebody's opened the email, it's really important that they are able to, get what they need from the email. I think the key thing is, don't change your creative every time you're sending an email, right? People should kind of know how your email works, a bit like how they would if they went to your website. So having a design system for email is really key. And what an email design system actually is, it's basically a library of components, so different blocks, right, sections in your email that you are designing and building ahead of time as a project. And then every time you send a campaign or you're setting up an automated program, you're basically pulling from those blocks and deciding which ones to use. And the only decision that you're really making is, what components am I using? What order are they going to be in? And what content do I need to populate these blocks with, right? That should be it. There shouldn't be a culture in your organization of, we're going to design the email, because that takes a long time. It creates all kinds of problems with inconsistent rendering in the inboxes to start with, but also it creates an inconsistent subscriber experience. And the best and most successful email campaigns generally all look pretty similar, right? Now, it's not to take anything away from creative. I think what you put in those components is key. So using things like animation, thinking about keeping your content really brief. That's another key aspect of really effective email design. Brevity, so short headlines, very short propositions, and trying to use email as, we just kind of talk about it in Chant as email being the bridge between where the person was going about their day when you sent the email campaign and where you want to take them to, which is generally to your site, right? And it can't ever be any more than that moment. And for that reason, everything you design in an email, we generally advise, you've got an attention span of about 3 seconds. And that is a very, very short period of time to engage somebody. So yeah, you've got to make it very easy for people. You've got to be very kind on their time. And so just be that little tiny bridge when you're thinking about email between, they were doing something else when you sent the campaign. And now they've opened your email, but you've got to make it easy for them. If it's too much text or, the images are too big or whatever, they're not going to engage. And they won't actually continue to open emails in the future. So yeah, I'd say they're kind of some of the key principles.
Yeah, no, that's really, that leads me to my next audience question, actually. Someone asked, lots of words or lots of pictures?
I love that question. I would actually say neither. I think be brief. I think if you say you're driving people's content on your website, you just want to give them enough, right? One liner What is your elevator pitch for that particular piece of content? Right. So just a nice little kind of, oh yeah, really want to read that. You want people to feel like, okay, I want to know, I want more of this. Lots of pictures in emails, lots of images in emails can be really problematic, particularly like for things like deliverability, like actually getting the email delivered. If you keep sending emails with lots and lots of images and they're too big, it can create all kinds of challenges in terms of just getting the emails delivered in the future. And actually, you've got to actually assume that most of your subscribers, this isn't say actually the majority, but you've got to assume that a lot of them won't actually see the images. So if you turned the images off in your emails, you need to know that that is still going to be accessible. It's still going to tell the story. It's a bit like when websites were all just big pictures like 15 years ago. Like you can't do that anymore. It's not okay. Like it's not accessible for lots of people that can't see, for example, and use screen readers to tell them what's on the screen. If everything's just hidden in images, doesn't work. So you have to factor all of these things in for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because even me personally, if Richard, well, I'm not going to tell you how many emails I've got in my inbox. But when an email does come through, I intentionally want to load the image, because you never know, like some people might send some quite interesting things, right? So you just want to make sure that you're quite careful. But I load my content to come in. So how exactly, if your email is image heavy, people might switch that output off, so your emails failed. Basically, you're not getting the result that you wanted, you're not getting the desired output that you're looking for, and the person your message is not going to be conveyed properly. So that's a really, really good point. Wow, look at the time. I've still got a few questions to get through here. What strategies can businesses use to improve email deliverable rates?
Yeah, deliverability, I'd say apart from list growth, is like probably the most important aspect of email. Like if you can't get your emails delivered, then it doesn't really matter if you're not really doing email marketing, are you? So I think first things first, with email deliverability is permission, right? Don't ever send to email contacts that you don't have permission to send. And that means, particularly in the UK, like you've got to have like an explicit opt-in. They've got to have explicitly stated that they want to hear from you, and you need to have that time stamped, and you need to also record and keep a record of where that happened, what site or what page was it on, what was the time and date. That's like the basics of kind of GDPR. So really, really important. I think like making sure you only send to those subscribers that have actually opted in, and making sure that you don't continue to send to contacts that aren't engaged. So the old world of deliverability was actually just making sure that you send to subscribers that are opted in. And then things started to change, and the likes of Gmail and Microsoft, and this goes for B2B and B2C, by the way, right? They started to look at engagement as a way of determining whether your emails should be delivered to the inbox, whether they should be delivered to the junk folder, or if they should actually be just completely like quarantined and kept, and not that the emails never even make the inbox or junk. So you need to make sure that if you are sending to everybody and your open rates are really low, your click rates are really low, Gmail, Microsoft, Yahoo, etc., they know that. They know, and they will be determining where to place your email based on engagement. So it is really important, right? And a lot of people don't know this, but it is key. This isn't a myth. This is a real thing. So that's important. And I think the other thing is also just making sure you don't suddenly completely change the frequency of your emails, because sometimes like Gmail, Yahoo, etc., Microsoft, they can see that as like a red flag for, this looks a bit spammy, right? They were sending like 10,000 emails from this domain name before, and actually they're now sending like 1 million a week. Like this looks suspicious. Like that's kind of another thing you need to be mindful of. There are some basics around deliverability, like getting your emails signed with DKIM and SPF. but that's a bit nerdy, and your email platform will be able to help you with that. But all that really does is verify that you are sending from the domain name that you say you're sending from. But that is an important piece of the jigsaw that is often with small businesses and startups not looked at. So I would definitely recommend checking on that, because that will, if your emails are getting sent to junk, it's highly likely that's like the reason for it. So yeah, I think making sure they're signed properly, making sure that you're only sending to people that have actually given you permission to email to them, and making sure that the contacts that aren't engaged, you need to ask them if they still want to hear from you or not, and if they and accept that some people kind of coming off the list is a natural part of email marketing.
What's the ideal email frequency to maintain the business's engagement with the audience without overwhelming your subscriber list? How often should we be sending emails?
Yeah, I mean, I think email frequency is I've made a broad comment about this at the beginning, and I'm gonna kind of stand by it, where I think if you're sending less than weekly, you're going to really struggle to hold people's attention, right? The inbox is busy, right? People get a lot of emails. I used to work with a huge publisher. This is like 10 years ago or so. One of the biggest publishers in the world, and one of their brands was sending a weekly email campaign, and they had 2 or 3 people working on this one email, but that's all they did. And that's a lot of effort, and it was doing very, very well. And because of the amount of effort that went into it, they decided to make it a monthly thing. And that was a massive problem for them. As soon as they went from weekly to monthly, their open rates felt like just declined so rapidly. You wouldn't even believe it was the same company sending the emails. Like, the results were awful. The click rates were next to nothing. And they just didn't have enough presence in the inbox. And this is a key factor in email. You've got to be turning up frequently and regularly, but don't be overbearing. You know, we've all been there with like Amazon, where they send 3 or 4 emails a day sometimes, but they don't do that because they do it for fun. They are incredibly effective. They know how effective they are if they send more email. And I'm not advocating sending loads of generic messages, but I suppose the key message is you're probably going to need to send more email than you might feel entirely comfortable with. And you actually have a right to, once you've got that subscriber, you know, it's your relationship to control, and you've got to keep the conversation moving. And if you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to start, you know, with a monthly newsletter, I think that's dangerous, right? It's okay for the first couple of months or whatever, just to get things moving, but quickly you're going to need to up the frequency. I think that's the key thing. So, you know, just keeping things moving along and using automation to, like, kind of, you know, listen to those kind of things that people might be doing and looking at on the site. And if you want to kind of nurture them with more emails, if they're more engaged, you can do that with automation. Yeah, I'd say weekly. And for some brands, it'll be more frequently than that, right? I've seen retail brands go from sending 2 emails a week to 4 emails a week, and all their open rates going up, even though they're sending double the number of emails, and all their click rates going up, conversion rates going up. Like, it's just worked. So you have to find your own exact frequency, but that's a good starting point.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Can you discuss the role of A/B testing in optimizing email campaigns?
Yeah, split testing, A/B split testing, ABCD split testing. Like, when I talk about testing, or people ask me about this, Jacob, like, I always think, like, brands don't do much testing, right? Small brands, even big brands. And I have always thought about, like, testing as free optimization. It's like, if you're under pressure as a marketer, or you're trying to think about getting things going with email, testing is only going to help you figure out, like, the best way quicker. It's free optimization. So it takes a tiny bit of time to do. Like, maybe you're going to test, like, subject lines. We talked about that earlier, but you might want to test things like your value proposition, or your offer, or the blog, say, or the piece of content that you really want to push that week or that month, whatever it is. But you need to think about testing as cultural. Email marketing testing is like, it doesn't cost any money to do. It takes a little bit of time, and it's something that you should be doing in pretty much every single campaign that you send. One of the key principles of testing, actually, that I will just quickly touch on is don't try and test like lots of things at the same time, because it'll be really hard for you to understand the results. So I guess what I mean by that is like, don't test subject lines as well as changing the creative, for example. Just try one thing at a time. So this week we're going to test subject line A, B, C, and D. And then the week after, you'll be like, right, we're going to go with the same subject line. We've learned some stuff from that subject line test last week, and we're going to test like value proposition A, B, C. And that's all we're going to test this week. And log all your tests, like even the ones that fail, because they're helpful to know and keep on record, so that you've got kind of a clear understanding of what you've tried to do in the past. They're the key elements of testing, I think, in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, I'm really surprised that you said that. Like, it's, or in your opinion, that testing is not something that we should really put too much emphasis on, and kind of just do it naturally, and you'll begin to understand and learn, even as you analyze, using some metrics as well. Which is actually what I'm going to come on to. The next question is, what metrics should businesses use to track and measure the success of their email marketing efforts?
Okay, yeah, I think ultimately the main metric with email is what is a conversion for you? Is it someone buying a candle or whatever, or is it someone making an inquiry if you're a B2B brand? Like that's the most important metric. Like I guess the answer is, what is your business metric for someone actually becoming a customer or repurchasing or whatever it might be? Then there's all of the email metrics, and I think that they're all important, right? Open rate is a good indicator of interest. So actually understand the percentage of people that are opening. If you're getting open rates of 20% and you're unhappy, then I can tell you that there are some global brands out there that would give their right arm for an open rate like that. So, and don't believe all the benchmarks that they say in the platforms that you're using. If you're sending through an email tool and it's like, oh, you're slightly below or above like the industry average, it's probably not real. Like, just you've got to find your own kind of benchmark. Click rate is obviously really important. One of my favorites, to be honest, is click to open rate. And click to open rate is like the percentage of all the people that opened that then went on to click. And that tells you how effective the copy and the value proposition was, and the content and the design. So that helps you to sort of focus in a little bit more on creative, which I really like. Another one that I do track is like the value of an email address based on how much people are spending who are actually buying things or converting from email campaigns, and if that number's going up or down. So, for example, if you're a retail brand and you're selling candles, so you keep using your example, Jacob, and you sell 500 candles in September through email campaigns, and you've made X, I don't know, £10,000 worth of revenue, and £8,000 of that's come from email. Like it's just, you can then see, okay, if I've got 100 subscribers, I know that my value of my email address is, each of my email addresses in my database is really high, right? So, and if that's dropping or it's going up, it's just a really nice metric that no email platform has in it, but you can analyze it in a spreadsheet in like 5 minutes. Really easy to do. So that's a really nice one. Just that gives you an understanding of the value of your database, and that is a reason to keep doing email marketing. Definitely.
Yeah. Before I move on to my final few questions, are there any emerging trends or innovations in email marketing that businesses should be aware of?
Okay, yeah. I think there are. I think that things like moving picture are becoming more commonly seen at the moment. That's one of the trends we're seeing this year, is like kind of really nice video GIFs. And there are some tools that can actually help you to bring email moving picture into email, but really you can do it in things like Adobe Animate and things like that. You can just bring in an MP4 and actually output it as a GIF, and then you can crush it down. There's a tool we use called EasyGIF. I think it is easygif.com, and it will just compress the file down, and it can take frames out and stuff. and that means you can almost like emulate what a video looks like in an email, which is really cool. So yeah, moving picture, a bit more difficult for some B2B brands because sometimes Outlook can block moving picture, especially older versions of Outlook, and it'll only show one frame, but it's still worth doing. I think like live content, so like showing people kind of like live countdown timers, content that relates like directly to what's happening on the site right now, like kind of like 2 hours left of this sale. And like AMP for email is something that we're definitely seeing brands like really kind of starting to utilize more, which is like actually like putting things like your cart in an email. So you can actually like add and remove things from your cart and then hit checkout, and it will take you to a newly updated checkout. That's really cutting edge and really cool. Brands have been trying to get their heads around that for a while, but seen a lot more of sort of AMP, which that means accelerated mobile pages. It's really cool. If you've not heard of it and you want to nerd out on that stuff, have a look.
Yeah.
But email does move a little bit more slowly in terms of innovation than other channels. So it's worth bearing that in mind that, you know, whilst all these new things are kind of cool to do, focus on the basic principles that we've covered today, and that will set you well.
Yeah. Well, I guess a question that I had, don't want to take too much more of your time, Philip, is 2 more questions. What role will AI play in email marketing going forward to either hinder or benefit business owners?
I love that question. I think that's such a good question. I mean, I don't know what is going to happen with AI and email, but I get the feeling that it's already hindering some campaigns. I'm seeing a lot of B2B brands applying AI written copy. It's obvious. And it's not good enough. And I think, you know, when we talk about sort of the purpose of email being giving people value, you can't just get AI to do the job. It can help you. It help you improve kind of some of your content, but ultimately it's there to assist you. And I think it will sometimes be able to do maybe all of the content for an email campaign, but I think generally I would advise marketers to use it less than they probably already are, in terms of don't rely on it to create all of the content. You rely on it to help you refine it. I think in the future we will see automation in email marketing get kind of heavily affected by AI, in terms of, oh, here's like a recipe for an automated basket abandonment program with an email here, and then it waits a certain period of time, and then there's another email, and then this happens and that happens, and here's the content. And I think, again, marketers need to just be careful. I don't think that AI is always going to have the answer. I think crafting things, it is still very, very important. So I think that's where we're going to go. And I think we're going to see a bit of misuse of AI and over reliance on it before we really figure out as marketers how it sort of fits in to help us.
No,
Does that make sense?
That's really good. No, that makes a lot of sense. Just the fact that we shouldn't be overbearingly, we need you AI, else we can't survive. Otherwise, it's gonna hinder us a lot. I know I'm here, Richard. Even as simple as using AI to analyze things for you. The AI makes a lot of mistakes if you're not going through the content, if you're not reading through it, double checking, which takes a human being to do that. You're going to send something out which is going to come back to bite your business. So yeah, if we become too over reliant on it, it can definitely potentially affect the bottom line and just put people off as well. Because when people can sense that AI is the one talking to me, it's not even the business owner or the people behind the business, it's just purely AI. It's like, I don't want this. So once again, I think it comes down to just the human psychology aspect of things. Like, let the human side speak more than anything. Even if it is AI that you're utilizing, there needs to be your personal touch, your tone of voice, the way you are, it needs to shine through at all times. So my final question, what are the top 3 tips that you would give to anybody for them to smash the ball out of the park when it comes to email marketing?
Whew, that's a big question, Jacob. Top 3 tips for smashing the ball out of the park with email. I think number 1, don't ever underestimate the value that you'll get back if you put time and money into it. It is your channel. And so actually focusing on it. And what I mean by your channel is the goalposts are never getting moved. It's up to you to decide how frequently you email people. Facebook and Instagram or everywhere, there's so many moving goalposts like in those channels that can make it very difficult for marketers to know really where they stand, in terms of getting stuff seen in the feed, right? Email is different. It's up to you to decide what happens. So I think firstly, don't overlook it anymore if you already are, and spend time and maybe increase your budget, because I think you won't regret it. I think number 2 is about content. We talked about already, and it's just crafting things, like crafting emails that people really care about, and focusing and obsessing actually on putting your subscribers' needs and desires first. Like if you do that, you will get what you want, for sure. And I think lastly, actually, I don't talk about measurement that much, but obviously it's really, really important. I think measurement and actually some of those metrics we talked about, and just looking at what's going on there and making sure that you are even just having a monthly view of, okay, things are going in the right direction. I'm getting more engagement with my emails, and I'm getting more people making inquiries or converting. This is going well. And if it's, and I can put more time and budget into this or hire someone. And make sure somebody actually, number 4, if I can do a 4, somebody.
Go on.
If you're a startup of 1 person, this is going to be you anyway, unfortunately. So you are going to be the email marketer. But if you've got a team and you're thinking, do you know what? We've got a few people around, even if they don't have any email experience, make somebody responsible for it and give it to them as a project. I think that's the key thing as well. Like, even if you don't have a marketing team and you're really small, just place it somewhere and get someone to spend maybe 3 or 4 hours a week on it to start with. And that might be how you can start and really start to see the benefits of email and what it can do to transform your business. It's an unbelievably effective channel. Like, I think I've banged on about that enough, but if you haven't looked at it, these are the key things. I think they're the 4 kind of things I'll be really focused on.
Do you know what? Because you gave yourself one more answer, I'm going to give myself one more question. All right.
Okay,
so in the spammy generation that we live in right now, we live in a TikTok generation where attention span is gone like that, right? What do people need to do to make themselves stand out when it comes to winning, when it comes to email?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think it comes down to loads and loads of some of the sort of things we've already discussed, all combined. And I'll try and answer it in a nutshell. I think sticking to your promise, like when people subscribe, in terms of never kind of taking their email address for granted, making sure that you're delivering that value to them, that get. If you give them what they want and need, you will get what you want and need in the end. Being kind on people's time in the inbox. I think you have got to think about it as creatively as you would with a TikTok campaign, or whatever channel it might be that you might, where you're really showing up. If you really put effort into it, people will remember you. And even if you're just reusing stuff from other channels, that's cool too. But I think, if people aren't unsubscribing, it means that they probably care enough. I mean, that's a good thing, right? If your unsubscribe rate is less than 1%, which it should be, right? Then generally speaking, that is a good place to be. And that's another metric that's showing you actually people are I'm getting good opens or whatever, but I might not be getting the clicks and conversions that I want. But if people aren't going, it does mean that, you know what, they're saying, yeah, I'm up for this. I want to see more from you. So yeah, look at all the numbers, and I think that's definitely a good way, a good indicator of whether you're actually sticking to that promise with your subscribers or not. I think that covers it. Yeah,
I like that metric. Yeah, I like that metric of how many people unsubscribe. I think somebody made a comment to say that AI sometimes overshares as well, which is a very good point. Yeah. But thank you so much for your time today, Philip. I really, really appreciate the gems that you've brought and the insight you brought. We're going to put into the chat how people can get hold of Philip, his LinkedIn profile, Enchant's website as well. And also, are you happy for us to put your email address in there?
Yeah, totally. And if anyone's got any questions, like, I'm here to help. Like, it's a pleasure. So yeah, just that all sounds good. Thanks, Jacob.
Remember, be friendly. He's been talking about being friends. So if you send him an email, be friendly as well.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
There we go. So thank you guys for joining us today. Jeremiah, you can. We don't need Philip anymore. You can kick him out. So thank you guys for joining us in today's episode of UKBF Talks. Next week, I will be speaking to TikTok sensations, 2 of them. Well, I've got four fingers up. 2 of them. They're going to be joining us live in the studio to talk about how to go viral on TikTok and what to do with that attention once you've got it, and what your business can really, really do with that attention as well. So if you have not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are UKBF, UK Business Forums. We're the largest online community of small and micro business owners in the UK. Whether you're starting off your business, whether you're in the middle stages of your business journey, or whether you're smashing it out the park, you're a millionaire, billionaire, all these different people are within our community. And it's all about helping one another, peer-to-peer support. And it's a free platform to join. So get yourself signed up to UKBF, and we've got something juicy up our sleeves coming in the next couple of days, which I am not allowed to tell you, but you need to subscribe and pay attention to all our platforms before it comes out, because there's something in it for you as well. So thank you once again to Philip, and we will see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Start by creating a plan. So you need to work out your